Hello, I'm Stuart Childs and you're welcome to the Dairy Edge, the Teagasc Dairy podcast. We're bringing you the latest information, insights and opinion to improve dairy farm performance. With the end of the year fast approaching, it's that time of year where advisors across the country are busy getting profit monitor input sheets out to clients for completion over Christmas or early in the new year. With this in mind, I spoke with Niamh Lynch, Teagasc Dairy advisor in Navan, County Meath, and I started by asking Niamh to explain exactly what the Teagasc eProfit monitor is and what exactly farmers can use it for.
It's the only financial package that links your technical and physical performance on the farm to financial performance. So therefore it shows the impact of the improvements in technical and physical efficiency on the overall profitability of the farm. So like other advantages are that allows you to compare your performance with other farmers, or if you're in a discussion group with group members. And it's also an excellent basis, I suppose, to start like a 6-year business plan from medium-term physical and financial planning.
Very good. So I suppose, look, we would definitely as an organisation, we'd like to see an awful lot more people doing profit monitor. Numbers are small relative to the population of dairy farmers in the country. Is profit monitor for everyone, or do you think that there's maybe a perception out there that only people in discussion groups do profit monitors?
Yeah, look, I think probably that is a bit of a perception, but I think personally, the profit monitor is for everyone. Like if you're in a discussion group and you can share that data with group members, or that's great, and compare within that. But there's also a lot to be gained on an individual farm level, and like even with comparing to the top 10% of farmers that complete profit monitors, you'll get an idea where you sit within them farmers. So like I think, yeah, definitely every farmer should be completing one, even if it's not in a group setting or you don't want to compare or show you anyone in the locality, you can compare within. Like I mean, the multi-year report is great. It's very easy to compare from one year to the other, where figures have changed in terms of even meal and that sort of thing. So, and like to just understand how much it's costing to produce a litre of milk.
Yeah, so just to clarify, I suppose that multi-year report is just your own farm from year to year, a build-up of data over a number of years of doing profit monitor, just to tell you how you track your performance within your own farm gate.
Exactly, yeah. So like if you're doing it for a few years, you'll be able to compare to the previous year, previous years and so on, yeah.
Very good. So people are normally pretty comfortable, I'd say, talking about grass management and breeding policies and how they operate the farm on a day-to-day basis in terms of the physical actual running of the farm. Do you think people are a little bit out of their depth when it comes to talking about the financial performance, or feel that they might be out of their depth?
Yeah, well, look, to be honest, yeah. And like, I mean, farmers usually leave all this stuff to the accountant and deal with the day-to-day running of the farm. So I think obviously it's like doing anything we're not used to doing. We're always going to be out of our depth. So I also think, though, a lot of farmers operate in the sense that, if there's cash there in the account, they're happy. But I do think there's always room for improvements, and the profit monitor will really guide these changes and where improvements can be made, and you'll see that within the reports. But like, I mean, the new changes in the profit monitor system in the last year or two, there's a huge amount of information and reports that can be generated, and I think that's great to get them changes in the system. So with that being said, I think the farm advisor really should guide the farmer in the right direction in terms of what reports to be looking at. And it's very easy maybe to get bogged down on a lot of information, but just pick maybe the few simple reports to be looking at.
Yeah, I suppose it's an important point you make there about the current account too, Niamh, like, because people could actually have money in their current account, but they could have an awful lot of it spent on capital items and so forth, and not actually have a handle on the actual performance of the farm. And in some cases, even spending that kind of money on the capital, sometimes it might be eating into money that's actually required for other to meet the bills that need to be paid on the farm, and just the way the year works out, that they have a bit of surplus around. So it's an extra step forward on from just kind of what's in the account, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So at the Outlook conference the week before last, Medillan said that given the low growth in dairy production across the world, milk prices have obviously, as people well know, have moved to unprecedented levels, and the dairy income for 2022 is going to be very, very strong. So people that have completed profit monitor in the past, and I suppose for people that we're trying to convince to do profit monitor maybe for 2022 production year, is there a risk those people might say, sure, what's the point? Like, this has been a great year, what's it going to tell me? So just on the basis that the returns have been so good, do you think that there's still justified merit for people to continue to do them, or to start doing them if they have never done them before?
Yeah, so like absolutely, I'd say some people might take the easy road and decide not to do them because obviously profitability has been so good this year. It's been an exceptional year, and look, we all know the majority of dairy farmers will make a lot of money, but cost of production, I suppose, will be completely different, and that's what we need to look at, not just the end figure of overall profit. There'll be a huge range also between in profit per cow from one farm to another. So I know like overall profit figures on dairy farmers will be very high, but it'll be very different from farm to farm. And it's important to analyze these figures, even in the good years. So, look at as just on to that, like there's a lot of talk, I suppose, on taking more land, I suppose, with the banding and different things coming down the line and nitrates, to keep these extra cows. So it might just be it's important, I suppose, to look within that and realize whether these extra cows that we're taking these land for are actually profitable within the system. And whether we should be keeping them or not. So I also mentioned before, like it's great from a business planning point of view going forward with expansion and things like that, whether to have that multi-year data there. So I think, yeah, it's important this year, no more than any other, to complete it. For people starting, I suppose, I think it'll be a good year to start. The figures will be for sure that bit easier to look at. And look at, it's always a good starting point to get it done, and it'll be easier, to going forward. The first year is always going to be hard. You'll be gathering a lot of data, and it'll be a bit daunting. But yeah, no, I think it's a good year to start.
Yeah, so I think it's a very important point you're making there in relation to like some of the media outlets are touting very, very big figures for land rental there at the moment, whether it's speculation or truth in what's been reported. But like the what they're talking about in some cases, nearly the profit that people are generating from those cows, and are people going to actually go out and pay that kind of money to ensure that they're able to keep that cow just so that they can pay for the acre that they're taking. It's a very, very important piece of information that people need to generate for their own farms to know what their actual profit per cow is, to justify whether they can be retaining those animals or not, depending on circumstances, and that.
Yes, so absolutely, yeah, yeah. There'll be a big difference within that. Like you said, like the price of land that's been quoted, I know in the area that I'm in anyway, is massive. So, it's very important for each person to know how much they can afford to pay for it, because if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, yeah. So look, Niamh, when you started working as an advisor a few years ago, you had a nice bit of work to do to convince people of benefits of doing profit monitoring. You've good numbers now, but like you really built it up over a number of years, kind of starting from zero, really. It can be a bit area specific. Like I know the office here in Moore Park is a very strong tradition of doing profit monitor and so forth. So was it a hard sell to convince people that there was something in it for them, that they should be doing it? And like, what did you do to convince people that they were missing out on something by not completing it?
Yeah, well, I suppose the first year is going to be hard to complete the profit monitor. With saying that, I suppose there's a number of people that are probably completing the cash minder through their accountants, or completing the National Farm Survey. And look, that's an easy start when that's been completed, and you can just get that transferred across to your farm advisor. And it is easier to complete it in that sense. But on the other hand, I suppose, like a lot of farmers are gathering the data in general to send to their accountant. So I suppose it's just a matter of being organised and having that data pulled together, and maybe analysing it on a month per month basis. Look, it's not easy to convince people to do it, but I think if you show them what can be got out of it in terms of maybe sample reports and different things that they can get from it, and yeah, look at from a point of view of expansion, and just knowing, I suppose, as well, where they sit within even the top 10% and areas for improvement and focus areas going forward. Yeah, if you get them to do it the first year, I think it's very easy going forward to convince them to do it again.
Okay, so Niamh, you mentioned there about the expansion, we'll say, in relation to convincing people. Maybe you used it as a tool to convince clients that they needed to do profit monitor a couple of years ago when you were building up that client base of them. But like we're probably moving into a period of consolidation, so profit monitor is going to be of equal importance in a steady state phase as it is true expansion, in terms of making the right decisions and making sure that we're not drifting maybe in a steady state situation.
Yeah, look, at 100%, the expansion phase has kind of paused for a lot of people, but I suppose still, in terms of knowing, I suppose, your overall farm figures and comparing, we'll say, to the top 10% and things like that, it's extremely important still to know, to have a proper monitor completed and know where you sit, I suppose. The other thing is, like, when people, I would call to a lot of people and they would have accounts completed from their accountant, and it's a very simple way to get them accounts emailed over and a profit monitor completed, and yeah, they can gain a lot by doing that.
Okay, and even actually there's a good housekeeping piece in what you're saying. So we are always looking to try and get profit monitors done for, so 2022, we're in December now. We're trying to get them done maybe in January 2023. It's going to be an important piece of the jigsaw for people in relation to the high output that they've had from dairying this year, that they do get their tax accounts done at a very, very early stage coming year, as opposed to leaving it run on quite late. So you can marry the two of these together now. So like you said about being organised there, and if people are pulling their stuff together for a profit monitor, they'll actually have their stuff ready to go to the accountant as well. So there's a benefit in doing that, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if people are kind of organized and have receipts ready to go, yeah, you've kind of done both at the one time, because I suppose it's important too to get that stuff to the accountants and get your accounts finalized for the year. But also, if you've that information there, you've the bulk of your profit monitor completed. So yeah, I suppose you're killing two birds with the one stone, I suppose. Yeah.
Very good. So just I suppose going back to, we'll say, when you convinced the people to go through the process of doing profit monitor for the first time, how did you get them to repeat the exercise in subsequent years then?
Yeah, so, like, look, I think definitely when they've the first one completed, I think that the most important thing is to have a one-to-one consultation with the farmer and the advisor on figures, maybe picking out maybe 2 or 3 focus areas for the coming year, so that it's kind of clear and concise information. If they're in a discussion group, that's great. All the better, and they can kind of analyze the data and compare it within a group setting. Um, but look, I think when farmers are going to the effort of gathering the data, they need something from it, not just the paperwork. So they need something within their own farm, would say, not just an overload of information and info that they can relate to, I suppose. Because look, we all know when we go on to profit monitor, there is a lot of stuff there, and different ways, I suppose, of analysing it, like per cow or cent per litre or per kilo of milk solid. So look, in general, feedback has been positive for anybody that has completed it, and I suppose the end result of it and what they're getting from it. So yeah, look, when they've completed once, I suppose, look, it's a bit like keeping the pressure on and getting the information earlier in the year, and kind of maybe analysing it in terms of maybe spending an hour a month of coming up with receipts and stuff like that, and keeping the data together.
So you kind of touched on it there a small little bit, Niamh, in your last answer, but what tips would you have in relation to completing this for people? Because look, you've said it already there. This isn't as straightforward. It's not easy street basically to do this if you're not used to doing it. So if you're starting from scratch for the first time, there is a bit of time going to go into it. But what advice would you have for people maybe in terms of completing it?
Yeah, so, like, yeah, you're right. Like, in the sense that it's not going to be simple for the first year, and I suppose, yeah, there's no point saying it is. It's going to take you a few hours to sit down and gather the data, or even a day to gather it up and compile everything together. But I don't think people should be put off by that either. Like, what you get out of it, I suppose, is will overcome the amount of time that you've put into gathering the data. And look, once you've done it once, it does get easier the following year. You have more of an idea what you need, and yeah. But, like, look, I think if someone's seriously interested and maybe that bit more tech savvy, they should really be spending maybe an hour a month on completing the cost control planner. It leaves it very simple at the end of the year. Cost control planner is an online tool where you input income and expenditure, and you associate it to whatever it might be, whether it be fertilizer or feed or calf feed. But if they're not tech savvy, it's no issue. I do think that everyone should have maybe like a folder with maybe for income and expenditure, and just keep all of our farm receipts like separate from the household. Remember just that your profit monitor is in your tax account. So look at that's an easy way of all the stuff there at the end of the year, and it's just a matter of maybe allocating them then to different things, whether it be like variable costs or fixed costs. So I know some people as well just literally write it down in a refill pad every day or every week what they spent. So again, the same thing, income and expenditure. That's a very simple way. At the end of the year, you just have a line across which what exactly you spent on meal per month. And it's very easy to tot it up then at the end of the year. So there's many ways that you can do it. It can be as complicated as you want or as simple as you want. And I suppose we come in contact with a lot of people that are doing it years and years and doing it a very simple way in terms of the refill pad each day or month they're filling it in. So you don't have to be tech savvy, but just that the cost control planner is a very handy tool for anyone that is.
Yeah, so like whatever works for people really is the best way to go about it, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So Niamh, I think you've given us a good old rundown there in terms of what people can get out of Profit Monitor, and we would strongly encourage people to consider doing one for 2022. Given the challenges that are there around costs, I suppose it's important to remind people yes, revenue has been very good from milk sales, etc., but costs have risen quite substantially. And we'll say if the milk price were to come down, where are our costs in relation to that milk price if it does come down? And are there areas that we can focus on there? Or have we overspent in particular areas? Or and as you said at the very start as well, it ties in well with the physical performance of the farm and the decisions that are being made on the farm. I think one of the big things that jumped out for me last year with the new reports were the impact of EBI on farm profitability was quite evident, I think, in 2021 reports. Thanks, Niamh, for coming on and talking to me this morning, and for everyone that's listening in, we'll be back again next week. Thanks. That's all for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast, and my thanks to Niamh Lynch for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast. You can listen on Apple and Google podcasts as well as Spotify, and for more information go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Stuart Childs, and join me next time for your Dairy Edge.